So now we will hear a songo pattern played in this area, and then just the left foot clave played in this area with the random snare drum pattern over the top. In this video, I want to give you a brief overview of the functionality of RhythMachine. Of the 3 pieces of software that I've written, I think this is the most interesting in terms of inspiring creativity and practice sessions. So basically the concept is that it will generate random rhythms based on these sliders here. So you have 16th notes, triplets and quintuplets for anybody who's up for a bit of fun. So if you mouse over a slider, it tells you what the permutation is. So slider A is 0, 0, 0, 0. Slider B is 1, 0, 0, 0. Slider C is 0, 1, 0, 0. So this is kind of a binary form of the various permutations of 16th notes. So all the zeros is no accents, so that's essentially a quarter note rest. 1, 0, 0, 0 is an accent on the first 16th note, and then 3 16th notes of rest, so that's a quarter note. C is a 16th note on the E, D is the and, E is the a, F is the 1 and the E. So I'll show you a diagram to show what all these letters represent. So the height of the slider represents the probability that that particular permutation will be played. So to go back a step, I'm going to set up here 2 bars, and that means that this whole range here is 2 bars long, and then you drag where you want the random pattern to be generated. So I've said that I want it to be generated from beat 1 of bar 2 until the end. So now when I hit start, we'll get 1 bar of click and 1 bar of a random pattern, and it's creating 4 beats of pattern and then repeating 1,000 times. So this pattern is going to repeat 1,000 times. Now if you want that pattern to change, you can hit the N key, and the next time it will create a new pattern. And now it will repeat this 1,000 times or until you hit the N key. So at the moment, all we have up are the 8th note faders. So that means that the patterns generated are only going to be 8th note patterns. If I push the 16th note fader up, you'll see that all of these go up as well. They're all the different 16th note faders. Now just to show you what I mean, if I pull these down, and the only one I slide up is P, if we mouse over that you'll see that it's 1, 1, 1, 1, then the pattern generated will be 1, 1, 1, 1 every time. Now if I was to put up a different slider and do a new pattern, now it's playing this pattern every time. And if I'm to put a mixture of 16th note sliders up, then we get a mixture of a 16th note rhythm. So you'll notice that when it was playing those patterns, it was also playing the zeros. And the zeros are basically ghost notes, and they will play on the snare drum or whatever you select from this drop down. So if I was to choose hi-hat, then the zeros will play on the hi-hat. And you can change the volume of the ghost notes by moving this slider here. So if I do a new pattern, now we don't hear the ghost notes. So one thing to notice is these red outlines. Now when they're red, whatever is enclosed is being recorded or written as new versions. When they're green, it's playing back previous versions. So we're creating 4 beats, and whenever these things are red, so now it's generating new permutations. and now it's turned green, it's repeating the same permutations. So it's also repeating the volume of the zeros. So I can move this, but it won't have any effect because it's green, which means it's playing back the previous one. If I want to set this into record mode, now it's recording the volume of the ghost notes. And if I play back, it will play back what we just recorded. Now you can hear a shaker in the background and a cowbell. That's the click, so I've muted the click. Now we can't hear it anymore. You can edit the click by going in here and choosing the volume of the shaker, the volume of the quarter note cowbell, and whether you hear things on the start or on the bar line. So the idea for RhythMachine came from a lesson I took with Robbie Amin in New York. And in that lesson, we set up 2 drum kits and we both played a kind of songo groove with a left foot clave played on the cowbell. And we would play 2 bars, and the first bar would be the groove and the second bar would be a melody that Robbie would play on the toms, and he would keep his left foot going on the cowbell. And then the next 2 bars, I had to play a groove for the first bar and then mimic what he'd played in the second bar. So it was a kind of ear training exercise in that I had to hear what he'd played, figure out what it was, and then be able to play it over the top of a left foot clave. So RhythMachine will let you mimic that scenario. If you double click P-Seq for the sequencer, it will open up a sequencer, and if you've used Octopus Sequencer, you'll recognize this format. Now I have some presets in here. If you click the first dot, it loads up a songo groove with a cowbell clave on the left foot. And on the right, you can see this button that says persist in random pattern. What I'm going to do is mute the ride bell, the snare drum, and the kick, and just leave the clave to persist in the random pattern. And then I'm going to close this window and I'm going to mute the click. So now we will hear a songo pattern played in this area, and then just the left foot clave played in this area with the random snare drum pattern over the top. And I'm going to bring the volume of the ghost notes down. So now this is a challenge that you could work with. And if you want to set it up exactly like me and Robbie had it, then you can say repeat just once. And that will repeat, it will play a new pattern and it will repeat it, and then it will do another new pattern. So you can play along, and it's a challenge to try and replicate what's been played. And now we'll get a new pattern this time. Now, the reason that all the ones are being played on snare drums is because they refer to this area down here. So here we have faders for snare drum, kick drum, 4 toms, hi-hat, open hi-hat, ride, ride bell, crash, crash, and a cowbell. And these are not volume faders, but they're probability faders. So like the permutation sliders here, if I have this one at the top, it means that we're going to get a lot of snare drum. And because all of these are 0, it means the probability of getting a kick or a tom is 0. If I was to put the tom faders up and bring the snare one down, we'll just get the occasional snare drum note. We'll get mainly tom 2, a little bit of the other toms. And then it will play the same pattern. And then it will do a new pattern. So that's how you choose the orchestration for this rhythm to be played. So I'm going to put the repeats up very high. So now it will repeat the pattern 518 times, unless I press the N key, in which case it will do a new pattern. Now when I hit start, we have a rhythm generated, but now this is green, it's playing back the recorded orchestration, so I can change these sliders and it won't affect what's being played. Now if I wanted to keep this rhythm but change what rhythm was played on, say we wanted it to be all on kick and snare, I can put these sliders up and then put this into record mode, and you'll see this is red, which means it's now recording a new orchestration. So as long as this is red, it will pick randomly from these sound sources. So I can change this around and put up, say, the ride cymbal and tom 4. And if I like that one, I can turn record off and it will play back the one that we just had. So let's put the toms back up, get rid of the ride cymbal. And if you double click P-Kit layout, you can see which drums are being played. So that's the basics of RhythMachine. Now the other sliders on here, if we put the triplets and the eighth notes up, then we're going to get more interesting rhythmic patterns. So you can see here that's triplets and sixteenths and then triplets again. So if there's 3 numbers in here, it's playing triplets. If there's 4, it's playing sixteenths. If there's 5, it's playing quintuplets. And then if we turn the ghost notes up again, and I put those on the snare drum, and do a new pattern. Now it plays all of the sixteenths, but all the zeros are played on the snare drum. You can make it more interesting by diddling the ghost notes. Maybe bring the volume down a little bit. And again, the diddle faders are probabilities, so if you bring the diddle fader down halfway, it won't diddle all of the zeros, it will just diddle some of them. If you have it near the bottom, it will just diddle the occasional one. You can also diddle the ones. You can also set to use some double time and some half time if I do a new pattern. Here it tells you whether you're in normal time, double time or half time. So you can get some interesting fills and things going on with that, and it will suggest rhythms to you which you may not have thought of before. So that's the introduction to RhythMachine. Check out some of the other videos for other ways that you can use it to create grooves, melodies even, and really inspire your practice sessions.